One thing Helluva's fans want more than anything is a crossover. An episode, a special, or even a full-length movie where the characters from Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss finally meet and interact. The idea of seeing these two worlds collide is something fans have been speculating about for years, and today I'm going to break down my theories on how that could actually play out. My name is Deepcut, welcome back to Cartoon Universe, and if you want even more Helluva Boss content, be sure to sign up for early access to our upcoming videos where we explore how the Angel Metatron could fit into the lore of Hazbin Hotel and Helluva Boss. Signing up also helps support the channel and helps support us making more mythological videos like those, so go check it out. Now, when it comes to crossovers, there are a lot of different ways you could approach it, but my favorite style is when characters are paired up with their counterparts from another series. The character who most resembles them, so we get to see them bond, but also get to see them clash over their very tiny differences. One of the most well-known examples of this was the episode of Family Guy where they crossed over with The Simpsons, focusing on the Griffins traveling to Springfield. Family Guy is considered in many ways to just be a reimagining of The Simpsons, both just being stories about average American families, but with very similar archetypes for a lot of their characters. The most obvious parallel would be Peter Griffin and Homer Simpson, who are both not just the fathers of the family, but both are known for being particularly dumb, with much of both shows hinging on the antics of their unintelligence. Meanwhile, Lois got paired up with Marge, Stewie with Bart, and you kinda get the idea from there. The fun came from seeing how these slightly different takes on the same basic character would interact when placed in the same world. Whether it's a movie, an episode, or even a short, I imagine a Helluverse crossover would follow a similar structure. It wouldn't be just about cramming all the characters into one place, it would be about pairing them in ways that highlight both their similarities and their differences. Now, normally in a crossover, the two main characters of each series are the ones to interact the most, but in the Helluverse, I don't think that would be the case. Blitz is the lead in Helluva Boss, while Charlie's the lead in Hazbin Hotel, and that contrast alone could be a key part of how the two shows overlap. After the recent Helluva Boss episode and the trial with Satan, Blitz is now very big news in Hell. Given how much Vox loves stirring up entertainment in the media, I could easily see him arranging for Katie Killjoy to interview Blitz, just like she once did with Charlie and her hotel. This would be the perfect way to bring the IMP gang to Pentagram City, though for those who want me to explore what would happen if the Hazbin Hotel characters went to Imp City or the other rings of hell, we'll definitely be doing a video about that later. For now, I think it's more fun to have the IMP gang going to Pentagram City, and I could even imagine them pretending to be sinners looking for redemption just to score a free hotel room while they're in town. But another interesting way for them to meet would be directly on the set of Katie Killjoy's news show. After all, Hazbin Hotel Season 1 ended with Charlie and her crew gaining recognition for fighting back against the Exorcist. If they're now seen as rising figures in hell, then a high-profile interview would make perfect sense for them as well. This would create the perfect scenario for Blitz and Charlie to cross paths, not as individuals, but as leaders of their respective businesses, both being interviewed by Katie Killjoy to talk about the changing business landscape in hell. And that's where things would get really interesting because their businesses are pretty much the opposite of each other. Blitz runs IMP, a company that profits off of sending people generally to hell by going up to Earth to kill people on behalf of sinners. A lot of these people were already bound for hell, but Moxie makes it clear that these people should have the opportunity to grow and figure out for themselves what they want to do with their lives before they're being killed by demons too soon. Charlie, meanwhile, wants to make hell less crowded. She wants to rehabilitate sinners in order to get them into heaven, and Blitz is basically just making her job harder by sending more people there sooner. Their core philosophies are completely at odds, and it would be really funny to see Blitz and Charlie arguing on the set of Katie Killjoy's show, with Katie Killjoy perhaps purposely scheduling them both at the same time in order to see what kind of battle would ensue. Something that makes a lot of sense considering last time she had Charlie on the show they ended up getting into a fight with each other. But while this may cause conflict, we'd of course also get to see some opportunities for the characters to bond. While Blitz and Charlie would set the stage for the crossover, the pairing that fans seem most excited for is Blitz and Angel Dust, and that makes total sense. Both of them are loud, chaotic, and completely unfiltered. They're queer icons in their respective shows, each with their own brand of flamboyant confidence. They thrive on attention and pushing people's buttons, and have zero shame when it comes to cracking the most inappropriate jokes imaginable or talking about their sexploits. If there's one thing that would definitely happen right away, it's them trying to one-up each other with increasingly ridiculous and way too personal personal stories of who they slept with. And that's exactly why fans want to see them interact, not just because they'd be hilarious together, but because their entire dynamic would instantly become about them trying to be different from each other. Both are known for bragging about their sex lives, with Blitz being known for his endless list of exes, and Angel showing off that people send him creepy fan mail about wanting to see his feet. Neither of them have any shame when it comes to flaunting their experiences, but even though they would bond over this at first, I think it would lead to them eventually hating each other and just trying to one-up each other. An even darker twist, however, would be for them to eventually start arguing about their personal relationships and who has it harder. Both already have pretty tragic pasts, but when it comes to who they're dating, there is a lot of similarity and a lot of contrast. Stolas has come a long way and is nowhere near the villain that Valentino is, but both relationships were rooted in pretty toxic power dynamics. With Blitz and Stolas having grown so much in their relationship and reaching more of a healthy place now, it would be really interesting to see Blitz and Angel eventually come to an understanding where Blitz's experience with how things can change, leading Angel to think that he can change things with Valentino, not to make them more romantic the way Blitz did with Stolas, but perhaps choosing to get out of that toxic situation and get into that relationship with Husk. And of course, if possible, that would make Stolas meeting Valentino just as interesting. Whereas Blitz and Angel would have a lot to compare, Stolas and Valentino would be a lot more about contrast. It wouldn't have to be anything big or dramatic, but a conversation between them would be very fascinating. Valentino would probably act like he and Stolas are equals, especially with Stolas now being something of a fallen figure, and perhaps someone Valentino thinks he can manipulate. He'd probably treat Stolas with casual arrogance as if they were already friends who had met before, even though the most Stolas seems to know about Valentino is just how much Asmodeus despises him. With that in mind, I think Stolas would pretty quickly realize that Valentino is pretty scummy, and while he still may have some resentment towards himself for how he treated Blitz in the previous year or so, I think seeing just how dark Valentino can be would make Stolas realize that he has grown, and that he and Blitz can do something more healthy with their relationship. Next, circling back to Charlie, I feel like the person she would be best matched up with is actually Moxie, and the two would probably have the most wholesome moments of any of them. Out of all the characters in their respective shows, they're the two that seem to genuinely care about trying to be good people, at least within their relative standard, with their general problem being that they're surrounded by people who want to be the worst versions of themselves. Charlie tries to stay optimistic and looks for the best in people, while Moxie, despite his constant anxiety, tries to hold himself to a higher moral standard even when it comes to who they kill at work. He believes in respect and proper conduct and doing things in the right way, even when he's forced into situations where that's not entirely possible. The second these two are in the same space, I think they'd immediately become the designated babysitters, forced to play damage control while Blitz and Angel Dust run wild. Whether they meet at the Hazbin Hotel or Katie Killjoy's set, it wouldn't take long for Moxie to find himself in the middle of yet another stressful mess. It would be pretty funny to see Blitz and Angel Dust get into a heated argument about who has slept around more and who had the harder life, with Moxie and Charlie trying to ease the situations and keep them both in control. Both Moxie and Charlie seem to be lovers of show tunes, so it makes sense that they would bond over music and theatrical performances, perhaps even enjoying something like a formal tea party together, while talking about how it's so hard to keep everyone else in line, but that they're able to get through it thanks to their respective partners, Vaggie and Millie. Moxie and Charlie are the ones that I believe maintain the emotional order in their Helluva shows, but Millie and Vaggie are the ones who focus on keeping everyone physically safe and in line. Both of them are more realistic about how dangerous the world is, and while they may not always believe in the idealistic goals of their partners, they tend to do whatever they can to support them. Millie has always been the muscle of IMP, never hesitating to throw herself into a fight, especially if it means rescuing Moxie. Vaggie, meanwhile, is not just openly violent, but she uses that to protect Charlie and the hotel, even from themselves. With that in mind, I think it's possible that these two would jump into battle against each other when Blitz and Angel start fighting each other, and Charlie and Moxie end up getting sucked into it. It would be really cool to see Millie and Vaggie fighting each other in particular, and then later bonding over how great the battle was. Next, this may seem like a weird combo, but I feel like Luna and Husk would be great friends if there was a Helluverse crossover. Their story wouldn't be dramatic or chaotic, and instead, I think Luna would immediately go to the bar at the Hazbin Hotel and spend pretty much the entire special just drinking and complaining about what the rest of the IMP gang is doing. Husk, meanwhile, would enjoy his own booze while keeping the drinks flowing, and complain about the antics of his Hazbin Hotel crew as well. Once the other characters have begun to resolve their issues and the special ends on a happier note, however, I imagine that Luna and Husk both both very drunk, would begin to let their soft sides out and start talking about how much they do appreciate the person in their life who has been helping them. In the case of Luna, it's Blitz, who of course adopted her, and with Husk, it's more about who he's helping, Angel, the equivalent of Blitz within his show. Finally, a really important character to Hazbin Hotel is of course Alistair, and he's someone I had trouble finding a direct person to match him up with. He doesn't have an obvious counterpart in Helluva Boss, at least not in the main cast, and because of that, I think instead he would have a funny interaction with pretty much everyone before getting to his final victim, Octavia. He could start with talking to Blitz and the IMP gang as a whole, where he says he wants multiple jobs done on Earth to kill specific humans. When asked who these people are to him, he could say he actually has no vendetta against them, and instead he just wants them to deliver the human meat to him so that he can eat human flesh again. Something I imagine the IMP gang would refuse to do, but something that would be very funny to have brought up. I imagine this would all just be a way to start conversation so that Alistair could eventually get one of the IMP gang to make some sort of deal with him, probably thinking it useful to have such high-profile assassins under his thumb. Especially with warnings from Vaggie and Charlie, however, I don't think he would succeed with the IMP gang. However, if Octavia was somehow able to get to Pentagram City and get mixed up in this crossover special, I think she would make the perfect victim for Alistair. Octavia has had a really hard time, so unlike the others, Octavia might actually listen. After what happened with her and Stolas, she likely still feels abandoned or angry, and Alistair could somehow prey on that to get Octavia to make a soul deal, leading to him having someone in the Ars Goetia under his thumb. And more importantly, perhaps access to Stolas, who despite being kicked out of the Ars Goetia, could probably be written to have an excuse to be just as useful to Alistair in some sort of crossover special. Finally, there's some fun special mentions I'd like to put out there, but real quick, I wanted to mention that we have that early access video on how Metatron could fit into Helluva Boss and Hazbin Hotel. It's a pretty interesting deep dive on Metatron lore through the lens of the Helluverse, and if you sign up for early access here on the channel, you help support us make more informational videos like that one. Link is in the pinned comment down below if you want to sign up, but the episode will be out in a few weeks. Now, with all of those main pairings out of the way, here's a couple more interactions that I think would be fun. First, Vox and Stryker. The V's already tried to send Serpentius into the hotel in order to infiltrate their system, and if at some point they just wanted someone assassinated, it would make sense to use a character that already exists in Helluva Boss for some sort of crossover special. And we know that Stryker isn't afraid to go into the Pride Ring in order to do work. These two interacting would be really cool, and it would just lead to an opportunity for Stryker to attack the Hazbin Hotel and interact with the other characters there as well. And finally, Imberlin and Nifty. These are two very high energy ladies who are obsessed with men and have fantasies about latching on to the right ones. Nifty seems more open about settling down with any guy she can get her hands on, but seems to have a special interest in Alistair. Imberlin, meanwhile, would probably be stalking Blitz like we saw at the end of her introductory short, and she could follow the gang into Pentagram City, where she would end up staying at the hotel, claiming to be a sinner who wants redemption, just so that she can stay in a room near Blitz and inevitably end up meeting Nifty and bonding with her. These are just some of my ideas of how a Helluverse crossover could go, however, and I wanted for this first video to address the ideas of Helluva Boss moving into the world of Hazbin Hotel. Like I said before, a future video will probably explore what would happen if the Hazbin Hotel characters went to Imp City or even into the other rings of hell. Not that sinners are allowed there. And finally, I'll probably do a third video about what would happen in an Elite crossover where all the royals from Helluva Boss got to meet Lucifer from Hazbin Hotel. But let me know some of your theories or just fun ideas you have for how those stories would pan out in the comments down below, and maybe we'll include that as part of our possible breakdowns. See you guys next time.
Well, 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 if it isn't my arch rival, Racer Rabbit. Shady the Bat, you're here for the magic crystal as well?
Careful, Racer! He almost beat you last time.
I guess we'll have no choice but to battle till the very end, our hands all over each other. No homo. There is no homo that I fear. Well then, may the best homo win!
Wait, what did you say?